Hi, this is Professor Lushin, and this is the beginning of the loss run data analysis. So I'm going to go through about the first 2 or 3 steps for my 43 class. First, what I want to do is indicate that as you start working on this, your own Excel document, make sure you come up with some form of coding system and especially put your name on it. Don't save it as the same name as I have it posted on the Canvas site. And it would be good if you use some sort of version of a numbering system or date to indicate where your work is being progressed, and don't delete the earlier works, because if something becomes corrupted, you want to be able to have a good document to go back to build back from. I'm just giving you forewarning here because things happen, especially when you're working on different computers. And combining work from other things, and make sure that you are hitting save often and that you're backing up your work. I like to use dropbox.com. They give you free certain amount, and it's been very reliable for backing up my work. But make sure you're using different systems. Make sure it's something that's reliable. And as you go through the steps of this analysis, always make sure to check your totals before you move to the next tab. It's sort of a quality check, and you can actually save yourself a lot of time, because if something didn't go right, if you miss something incidentally, if you catch it before you continue your work, well, then it'd be easier to recover from. So always check your work. And then make sure you're keeping notes, not only comments and conclusions in each tab, which you're required to do for this project, but also handwritten notes of what you're working on and what you're learning and what you're doing, because you're not going to do this all in one sitting. You're going to have to come back to it. So it's good to have stuff written down so you remember what you did. So the first step is we're going to open up the document and take a look at the headers. Of course, after we copy and paste from the master to a new one, we don't want to mess with the raw data. And we're just going to see what the column headers are, because that's the variables of the claim that came out of the report. We're going to look at the number of claims, the dates of injuries, so the range of the report. Then we're going to create a few more new columns. One is going to be year, and I prefer fiscal year for this particular data set. Depends on what the range of dates are. We're going to create a total paid column, and I'm going to create what isn't on here, an open closed claim column, because this one doesn't have it. Typically they do. And then we're going to look at the descriptives. You see there's a lot of things here. The descriptives are meant to kind of define the entire data set. It gives us an indication of magnitude and percent and how things kind of break down. And I'll probably break down the open close claims, and then we'll talk a little bit about the results. The last step for at least this week's progress is to sort by total paid, bar graph it, and then do both a visual graphic evaluation and also numeric. And that is, it'd be nice if we could get the total paid percent max close to 1% or below, simply because we're going to be multiplying percent frequency by percent severity or total paid. And the greater the max amount claim is, the more it influences what it represents. And this will become clearer later on. But that's just kind of from my experience, some of the rules of thumb that I've adopted. And then we're going to compare the updated with outliers removed descriptives to the original with them in, and then we're going to look at the outliers. And then when you get done with all this, with this video and adding your comments and preparing your document, please upload it to Canvas by midnight. So here is the Canvas site. Here is the project loss run data analysis tab. It's beneath lecture 13. Here's the assignment. Here's the Excel document itself that you need to download to start working on, and then this is where you're going to be uploading your progress. So let's open it up. Let's start playing with it. So here is the data set. I'm going to quick zoom in so you can catch things. Hopefully that's enough. I'm watching on YouTube. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click up in this little left-hand corner, and I'm going to Control C to copy. See, you get these lines. And I'm going to create a new tab by left-clicking on that little thing. And I'm going to zoom in again. I'll go to 200 all the time. So let's take a look at the headers. This new tab is called Sheet 1. I'm going to call it Descriptives, because that's what we're going to be doing. And so we've got date of injury, which is a good identifier. Time of injury, AM, PM, receive date, claimant, gender. You guys are probably reading this faster than I am. Nature of description, body part, accident source description. Submission description is something we're going to look at, especially when we're going to be evaluating the outliers once they're removed. Policy class code, that's the code that is assigned to generate the base premium amounts. Remember what we talked about in class, it's the policy class code multiplied by payroll divided by 100. That's the base premium, and then you multiply the EMR to get the adjusted jurisdiction, state, location, and department. So we've got codes here, so we don't know what they mean, but still we can sort by them and identify the most frequent, most severe, medical or indemnity, and then we get into the actual numbers. Okay, so let's start creating some new columns. So I've got the paids and I've got medical reserves. What I'm going to do is left click on the T to highlight the column, and then I'm going to right click it and left click insert. So it created a new column for me. I'm going to type in total paid. And now I got to fill it in. And I can do that two different ways. I can type the equal sign and then just basically simple addition like that. Gives me $24.32. Or I can type in a function function and highlight it. Those are the numbers. And hit return. It's the same number. To spread it down the entire column, because there's nothing below, all I have to do is double left click on that little button and it copies and pastes. Now there's something that's bothering me, and that is proper units and significant figures. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these cells. I'm dragging right now and it's not going very fast. But once I get there, I'm going to show you how you can change the cell. And I think it's important to have the units correct. So this is supposed to be currency. And so you can go up here and I can just choose currency, or you can, in the space, right click and go to format cells, and then you could put on currency as well. I'll go 0 decimal places and just say okay, and it just gives me all dollar values. And if I so please, if I really want these all to be differentiated out, by defined, I can go over here to the borders and go all borders, and oh, look at that, isn't that pretty? You don't have to do that. I try to keep things clean as I'm working. All right, let's do the open close. Open the closed. The way we can do that is when they express that there is medical reserve, that means it's still open. And they do that to balance their books. But you can see a lot of the older claims here. I'm assuming they're older claims. There's a lot of zeros. Okay, so we're starting to see some numbers now. So those are open. And to determine what it is, I'm going to use a simple if-then equal if. I got to give a criteria. That criteria is if the medical reserve is equal to 0, then it's closed. If not, then it's open. And I don't like how big that is. That's better. And let it fill itself in. Okay. And now I can add those up to find out which ones are open and closed. You know what we didn't do? We didn't sort by date of injury to find out what we got. So what I'm going to do is highlight the header row, go to data, go to filter, and when you do that, you can now sort by any one of these headers, as long as there's nothing down below. Everything is still within the original sort of table format. I can click on this and then designate whether I want to go high to low, low to high. And now it's giving me the first claim date for the report. And that was July 1st, 2009. And now it should go, all the way down to the final, which was 7/29. So this data set covers, let's do the N first. N is the total number. There's one header row. So we take this number, 523, we minus 1. There's 522 claims on this report, and they cover 7/1/2009 to 7/29/2019. So this is a way to define or provide some scope or context to the data set. Now, another thing I want to do, because I've sorted it, is I want to create a new column and I want to define the year. Because I'm going to be trending by year, and because I'm going to be doing the outliers next, Let me get rid of that filter. I'm going to call it fiscal year. Now, fiscal years usually run July 1st to June 30th or October 1st to September 30th. It depends on the industry. These claims seem to be starting early July and going through to June. And I want to capture as many full years as possible. And so if it started January 1st, of course I would use calendar year, but here it starts in the middle of the year. So I'm going to type in my year. Oh, isn't that nice? We got to change what the cell is. Make sure it's general. There we go. Now, can I click and drag, or is it going to try to count for me? Okay, good. I can click and drag. So I'm just copying and pasting in a real simple way, and I'm looking for the end of June the following year, right there. And oh, there's one more. No problem. 2010. Now, this may seem tedious, but for me, this ensures that it's right. And I know there's some ways to do it, but it's not ideal. And I mean, if I had like 1 million entries, yeah, I'd probably try to find an easier way to do it, but it's just a little over 1,500. This won't take too long. And you're learning to click and drag, so excuse me. Frog in my throat. This will be almost done here. Oh, went way past it. Sometimes it jumps. 2014. Okay. I'm close to the end here. Almost done here. Go, and the 2019 is only going to be 29 days worth. Yeah, it goes right there. So one thing I can do is, let me show you. We can count right now to see how many claims there are per year. Okay. Gosh, I don't know why it's coming out that huge. So, if I want to know how many 2009 claims there are here, I can go equals count if. Now, when I type in something like this, you see it's got count if and count ifs. So, count if, you designate the range of cells, the range, and the criteria. My range is cell B2 to cell B1523. What that did is, instead of having to manually click and drag, I've just defined it, typed it in. I try to do that to make things a little bit easier. Now I got to give its criteria. I'm just going to click on the 2009, and I got 169. Now what I'm going to be clicking and dragging up and down, and I'm trying to have it count from a specific range. What I need to do is I need to freeze the row. So now when I click and drag, when I get to the bottom here, it will still be B2 to B1523. If I didn't put the dollar signs in, it would drag it down one row each time I went down. Excel is spatially oriented like that, and it's almost to a fault. But if you are aware of it, then you can make those adjustments and make sure your numbers all work out. 1522, we're good. Just wanted to show you that. Now let's go over here. Let's start building our descriptives. Let's see. Some of those things we wanted to look at would be the subtotal. We want the percent of total. We want the average, the median, the number claims, the percent of $0 claims, because that affects other numbers and I want to know how many are there. I'm going to do a paid average. I'll show you what that is in a moment. Then we have the max amount and the percent max of sub. Okay, let's do it. So this is where you're really going to learn to use Excel. So if we want a subtotal, I'm just adding up the column for this particular sub. And I mean, this sub right here is the medical. This is the indemnity. And you can go up and look. I've been playing with this for a while, so I know what it is. I don't like when the font's different. Call me cookie. There we go. Yeah, let's start filling this in. See, I'm already trying to think of what the table's going to look like. These are really bad descriptors. I should have written these out, but for the sake of speed, I'm trying to get this done for you. So I'm going to add up what's there, and this is the sum. You got to give it the range, and that range is R2 to R1523. See it lit it up. I hit return, and I can click and drag this over. And because when I drag it laterally, so to the right, look at it added up what's above it, because I originally assigned is add everything above it from that row to that row. So when I drag it over, I don't have to freeze anything. I just drag it. So I really don't have to type each equation once, or formula once. So the total is the amount divided by, and I type this in so that it won't change. When it came out as $1, we're going to turn it into a percentage. Drag it. If you set up the units or define the cell for the first one before you drag it, it brings it with, and I like that. Let's see what the average amount paid is. Again, define the entire range. There, see, it's all of R. Drag it over. Let's do the median. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to define what everything looks like at the beginning. Oh, I went too far, didn't I? No, 1523, that was right. I thought I had typed in a higher number. Drag that over. All right, number of $0 claims equal count if R2 to R1523 is a 0. Drag it. Percent of the $0 claims equal this number divided by the total, which is 1522. That needs to be a percent. All right, now we know how many $0 entries there are for each of these variables. The paid average is equal to the total amount that was paid for the sub, and divided by the difference between 1522, which is the total number, minus the $0 claim. So this is the average if you took out the $0 claims, because $0 claims drag it down. A 0 brings down the average, and I want to see what it looked like that, you know, maybe there's something difference between the claims when they are paid or not paid. It's just a theory, and it's usually a little bit higher. Yes, see the difference? See how low the medians are? And I'm going to explain that in the next tab. The max amount, we type in equals a max R2 to R1523. That's so there's a claim up there that had this much. Let's see what the percent is. Take the max amount, I take the sub total, and turn it into a percent. So as I spoke of during the PowerPoint, we want to try to bring these numbers down, because when the max influences, say, a product, when we multiply percent, percent frequency by percent paid, it affects it. And so these numbers aren't too bad. These numbers are a little bit low, so there's not many zeros, so actually these shouldn't be too different, and they're really not. So here's our descriptives. Now I could count the number of open and closed claims. So we've got open and closed, and this is a simple equal count if Z2 to Z 1523. Yeah, let's click on this. There's 65 open. I should really freeze the 2 and the 1523 so that when I click and drag it, all right, what does that equal? Should be 1522. There we go. So that is the descriptives. Kind of gives us an idea of what we're working with. And you could actually, I mean, you're going to be reporting this kind of stuff. That this kind of defines this, and these define the data set in its entirety without any sorting or any messy business. So let's go and do the outliers. So I'm going to bring over the entire descriptives data set. And so I'm going to keep all this stuff down here, which means I have to manually highlight, not a cool thing by any means, but I don't want to get rid of this stuff because it's actually going to become important. So I got to click on the bottom left and then I just drag it. So I'm holding down the left button on the mouse and I'm just dragging. I'm highlighting all of the data itself. And what I'm going to do is then try to sort by the header. Now, I could delete everything down below, but the problem is I want it there, and I'll show you why. So I highlighted everything, and now I'm going to go to Data and Sort, and shoot. Okay, so it used a different row. All right, now we're back up here, and I really want to sort by total paid, but I don't know what that is, so I got to look. Total paid is U. Go back to sort. I'm going to sort by, first of all, take that off. Sort by U. And I want to go largest to smallest. Okay, so it just sorted all my data, so nothing got corrupted. And it's got the total paid up here. Look, there's a bunch of open still. And now what I want to do is graph it. So I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to do all my total paids. And we're going to create a bar chart. And you're going to see now how the data is distributed. And that'll make the kind of some of the descriptives that we saw make more sense. I feel like we should do this with all data sets to just see what it looks like. Because sometimes when we express the average of the mean, it doesn't really, it's not close to the median, which is the 50th percentile. And so I think we need to see what the data looks like. All right, here we go. Now, insert, choose a bar chart, and we get this. I'm going to drag it off over here to the side so we can make it bigger. There we go. All right, so this is really zoomed in, so I'll do my best. So look at this. This is the entire data set. Look at, so we've got these $0 claims or very, very low claims, and they're very, really, look at, we're way below the halfway point. The halfway point's like right in here somewhere. And there's like nothing here. And then we've got this, you know, a few or a handful, a few dozen, if you will, claims skyrocketing. So those are outliers. We need to remove those from our analysis because they're going to affect our risk priority numbers, which is how we're going to prioritize things. So I bring up the total paid and I'm going to start highlighting the row. And I'm going to come down quite a bit. We saw how high it spiked. And what I'm looking for is when it stops being so drastic. You know, when it has these big, you know, multiple $1,000 jumps. And let me see here. Oh, let's not go that far. Let's get down to 80, okay? And then what I'm going to do is a Control X for cut. You see how it's highlighting? And what I'm going to do is just put this down below. And when I do that, it's going to take it off the graph for me. I'll leave plenty of room here. So they're still intact, but look at the graph. So it changed quite a bit. It lowered itself. And as you can see now, yeah, there's still a spike, especially if we're looking at it from this perspective. I mean, ideally, we'd want it to be, you know, somewhere in there in the middle. So, are these still influential? Let's take a look at the. The max amount paid is still, it still holds a 1.53% influence on everything. It accounts for that much, and the medical in that one is about 177, and indemnity it's 8.33. So I think that's justification to go pull out some more. And now, is there any like nice clean cutoff. I mean, these right here look like cutoffs. I like this one probably the most because see how it gets more gradual or grainy there? And there's the kind of one right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up there and cut out everything that's, what did that say? 38. Okay, let's go check it out. I'm going to highlight the rows, get all the way down to, oh geez, I was looking at the wrong row. I should be looking at you, down to 38. It keeps jumping on me. All right, so 38, 37, 36, 36, 30. Okay, so I'm just going to go to 37, see what it looks like. So I'm going to right click and cut. See, it's all highlighted. And I'm just going to bring it down here below and add it to the list. Okay, there we go. So I've got a few of them here, don't I? Let's look at the graph. Let's see how much gradual it looks there. That looks a lot better. And let's look at the table. 1%, so that's kind of my goal. So we're 1% here, 1% here. Yeah, it'd be nice if these were more ideal, but we still have some meat on the bone. You know, there's still 3.5 million left. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to remove those outliers, and now we're going to kind of look at it a little bit more. I'm just going to get that off of my open closed. With those removed, we could also look and see, did the opens go down or not? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. How many do we have? Let's count them up. Oh, you silly thing. Give me a general. Okay, is it gonna keep counting? Yep, it is. So how many were removed? 31 claims were removed as being outliers. Let's compare that to what we originally had. And I'm gonna do something here I call portaling. If you play the video games, you know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna hit equal, and now I could type in an equation, I could type in a formula. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my descriptives. I'm going to click in the upper left-hand corner, hit return, and it brings it over for me. So now as I click and drag, it portals over my work. But it doesn't bring over the definition, the cell definition. So I got to fix that all up. So there was really nothing. But what I should do here is go n equals 1522. And up here is, oh, I don't know what the difference is. If I go 1522 minus, did I take out 31? Is that what it was? 31. 31. The new n that I'll be working with here is n equals 1491. Just to help define it, I'll give this one borders, and I gotta turn this into dollar amounts. Yeah, this is gonna be a little bit tedious. This is a percentage. These two are dollar amounts. I mean, it's good that you practice this stuff. That's actual count. This is a percentage. So it goes quicker. Paid average and max amount. That's all currency. And this is a percentage. Okay. So look at the comparison here. One thing I want to do is, I don't have really room to do it. I should have, is actually figure out the adjusted percentage. And that is simply, I'm going to take the original and divide it by, take the adjusted and divide it by the original. We're at 59%. I don't know why that's so amazingly huge. Percentage and drag it. So the outliers that were removed, they were like 43.19% of the amount that was paid. So we took out a lot, but the thing is, there's still plenty of meat on this bone, and we took out a lot of the influence that would have guided us or possibly falsely prioritized one of our sortable variables. And so what I'm doing is I'm just making the data set less biased by removing the outliers. And what's interesting is maybe later on when I do another video, I'll do it with both outliers in and outliers out, so you can see the difference. And there is a difference. I've learned my lesson, if you will. So let's take a look at the outliers here. I think probably most important is that we bring down a header row so we know what we're talking about. I'm just going to copy it. I'm not going to cut it. And you see there's that big space up there. I'll fix that later. But for right now, it's not hurting anybody. All right, so here's our stuff. I'm just going to put that in here. All right, so what do we have here? Let's take a look. The highest paid is a little over 200,000. And let's see what kind of injury it is. It's a strain of the shoulder. The cause was resident repositioning. Let's see what it says here. Employee came to EH, I don't know what that is, and this has happened in 2016, to ask about an injury sustained because she was not, okay, I gotta do a text wrap so I can read it. Is it even longer than that? It is. So I'm not sure if the injury happened for work, but it's getting worse, and she's got the lot was paid. Let's see. So she got medical, 150,000, indemnity. So this is lost wages, 53,000. So this was an expensive claim. It's still open. Happened in 2016. Is that what it said? Fiscal year 15. Okay. Next, this is another 200,000 claim. Reports repetitive bending, twisting with position aggravated pre-existing orthopedic issues, and that is medical. Was well, these are really close. Interesting. Pay, that was that's really a difference between. Oh, that's different too. So another over. This is these next two were just under 200,000. Let's see what happened. Employee reports injured right low back while bending forward to slide patient from table to cart. 200 grand. Assisting two paramedics with, let's see, where's that text wrap? There it is. A larger patient from a bed to a gurney, fell strain low back, immediate pain, back spasm, shooting rib back. So another 200,000 right there. And also kind of look at these policy class codes. So the top 5, 6, 7 are just 8833, 9040, 8810. In a future, probably the next video, I'll take you to a website where you can find out what these things mean, these codes. Employee cut foot. Okay, so here's our first slip, trip, fall, and there's another one, and here is a fall from a ladder. Huh. Interesting. On a step stool, low ladder with handle, cleaning metal curtain in dish room. That's weird. Put left foot on the bottom step, right foot on the top step. Was scrubbing curtain when left foot slipped off the bottom step, sliding under step stool. Left leg was under stool. And that's where it ended, and that cost $128,000. That's the first slip, trip, and fall. No, it's not. That was just a different type. This is the first one. We've got another slip, trip, and fall, struck by. Let's see what the struck by was all about. You see, I'm just kind of opening it up so I can see it, wrap the text. Person's name was preparing a patient in OR for surgery. Another employee came through the operating room door. The door hit Teresa, causing her to fall against equipment. In the OR, she sustained a spinal fracture of her left femur. Oh, spiral. I was going to say spinal and femur. Spiral fracture. And that cost $67,000 in medical, $22,000 in indemnity. A door hitter. And she hit something else. This was resident patient assisting. Wrap text. I'm not going to do this too much more. I'm going to want you guys to read through and kind of classify, count. I mean, it's only 31, so it's easier just to count than have to do calculations. Employee reports. Patient needed to use the commode. That's a toilet, for those of you who don't know. The nurse instructed the patient to wait until RN got the commode ready and slide rail down. Patient started to get up on her own without help. RN reached for the patient with sudden jerking movement of the right arm and, doesn't say, $64,000 claim. And yeah, it's closed. And that's just the what? That's the 10. So that's the top 10. So I want you to keep reading these and pay attention to the causal agents. There should be some commonality there. Check out the policy code and kind of look at the cost. I want you to get familiar or just get an indication of some of these things that you're reading and think about how could it be, how could this stuff have been prevented? Some of it, it's like, you just don't know. It's like, it's kind of a freak accident or something. Sometimes people are just reacting. Oh, what's this one? I just want to read this one. I'll pretty much call it a day. Employee was struck by a 4x8 ceiling panel. That's huge. I don't think they made ceiling panels that big. Knocked them off the third step of a 6-foot ladder. The employee, that's immediately, noted a scrape to the right forearm. Approximately 15 minutes later, employee noted increased pain to the left ankle. When, and then it's blank. 50 grand, approximately, just under it. So take a look at those and just try to make note, because as you start doing the analysis on the adjusted data set with the outliers removed, you're going to start seeing some correlations, some trending, and that's where making note of what you see here is really important. This stuff is removed from other analysis, but it's not forgotten. We're going to come back to these as sort of the support to our recommendations. So we were doing our analysis with, approximately almost $3 million, probably 2.8, removed. And you might be thinking, well, that's crazy. Don't we want higher? No, we want more conservative numbers. And that's the other thing too. One is it makes it less biased. The other is it makes it more conservative. We're more likely to be able to reach what we're recommending. So that's what I need you to do. So for each of these two tabs, write some discussion on what you found, what it means. See where you are. This is, this is a learning process as well. But I want you to go through. And so we've got some great data here already. We've already got some insight into what some of the issues maybe, or I shouldn't say that. Let's rephrase that. Where they could start working to save the company money and protect workers better. So that's all I got for now. Make sure you upload your completed Excel document, saved with your name in it, some other code, and with comments. And you can just identify a comment or insert comment or whatever you want to do. There's a text box. I just need to see what you're thinking about and what you're seeing. So contact me if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will be talking about this now every week in most lectures to make sure everybody is getting it and progressing satisfactorily.